All right, everybody, it's another episode of the Reserve Man Podcast. I'm Dick Brown. I got with me GP.
I need more than 725.
Shagari.
What up?
What's up, Stan?
What's good, people?
And we have to welcome State Representative Royce Duplessis.
You got it.
All right.
We in here.
We're going to talk a little bit about the bill that you had, the minimum wage bill. We're going to talk about the current state of Louisiana. The bottom.
The bottom.
We're going to talk a little bit about the Superdome renovation plan.
Knock it down, build a new one.
That and so much more right after this.
You know your credit score bad. I'm not that's solid quality time. Right. Why is Steve Harvey still writing books? Wait a minute. Like, if I want you, I ain't say you to Waffle House at 2 a.m. Bullshit. Hey, look, I care about you. We going to Waffle House.
All right, everybody, we have a great episode for you today. But first, let's start by introducing our guest. That is State Representative Royce Duplessis.
You got it. You nailed it.
I got it. All right.
You nailed it.
Man, why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself, what you want people to know about you?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank y'all for having me on this show.
All right.
You know, I was happy to have met my guy GP a few weeks ago, and he was gracious enough to offer me, extend to me the invitation to come on and just talk shop. So I appreciate y'all for doing this, for having this platform. It's very important that we have platforms like this, and I'm honored to have been invited to be a guest. And just let me say that. A little bit about myself. You know, I do have the title State Representative before my name at this point in my life, but that certainly doesn't define me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm born and raised from New Orleans, son of Hetty and Wilfred Duplessis. I kind of feel like I'm getting into my little campaign speech right now.
Roll with it, beautiful being.
Say what you got to say, brother.
One of four boys. You know, we were raised in the city. Two hardworking parents. You know, my dad worked as a school teacher for the Orleans Parish school system, working with children with special needs, and my mother worked for the Postal Service. And you know, we had everything we needed, but in my growth, my development, and my upbringing, I've just always had a desire to see better, not just for myself, but for the people around me. I do believe that to whom much is given, much is required. So, you know, I went to Xavier University for undergrad and had a great experience there. Worked for a couple of years in between making the decision to go to law school up at Howard University School of Law, which was an incredible experience. But ultimately, you know, being from New Orleans, being from the South, I knew I wanted to wanted to make a difference back home. Wasn't quite sure how I was going to do that, but it being home in the place that I love mattered to me. So I moved back home back in 2011 and went into the legal profession. And I can't believe it's already 2019, and so much has happened in between that time. But you know, that's just a little bit about me, and I'm happy to get more into the discussion as we get into it.
What year did you graduate from Howard?
2010.
2010.
Yeah.
Okay.
Clerked for a judge in D.C. for a year, which was an incredible experience. And then associated with a big law firm in New Orleans and did energy law, regulatory law for several years. And then I went and worked as special counsel at the Louisiana Supreme Court for several years prior to hanging my shingle as well as running for the legislature. Yeah, so right now I'm a solo practitioner. I am a personal injury lawyer. I do a little bit of criminal defense, but trying to focus more on the personal injury side.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. You know, from one fellow struggle brother.
You know the struggle, brother. It's real.
Another.
That's right.
Man, we happy to have you here today.
I'm happy to be here.
You know, you said you wanted to move back, and it seems like service is a big thing for you. I'm assuming that's why you decided to run.
Absolutely. I believe fundamentally, and I can't say that I was taught this directly by any one person. I think that just looking at people like my parents and looking at my coaches on the playground and looking at other volunteers in the community, that service is truly the rent that you pay for your time here on earth. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was Muhammad Ali who who famously said those words. And I believe that we are all called to serve in some way while we're here on this earth, be it public service, be it elected service, be it just even if you work in the private sector. We are all called to serve in some way, and figuring out your way in which you're going to give back and the way in which you're going to uplift humanity, I believe is something that we're all called to do. So, yeah, service is very much a part of what I strive for, and try to, in my own way, inspire others to find their way in which they're going to give back their talents and share their time with others, because, we all put here to coexist. And, the universe, sometimes we may feel like it revolves around us. It's really about what can you do for other people. Right. And I had some great examples in my life who protected me and guided me. And I just feel like, wow, life being as short as it is, I want to do as good of a job as I can making life better for other people.
That's very commendable. And I'm assuming that's why the minimum wage bill is so important. That's part of it.
It is. It certainly is. And, my decision to go into public service was not an easy one, to be honest with you. I did not grow up thinking that I would ever go into public service. It wasn't something that I aspired to. Right. Yeah. It wasn't something that I found attractive. And even today, I don't know that I find it very attractive. It's not very glamorous. It's real work. I think if you're in it for the right reasons, right. And it's thankless work, but you don't do it for the thanks. But in terms of my reasons for wanting to go into public service, it was sort of a combination between my passion for people, as well as my experience in and around policy and public service. So I was fortunate to have worked at the Supreme Court. I was fortunate to have served as chief of staff to a New Orleans City Council member prior to going to law school, right. And had served on various boards and commissions and been in the community, helped work on various campaigns, and kind of been around politics.
So you already had a good deal of experience.
I thought so. Yeah, I thought so. So when I had to ask myself, how could I be of highest and best use to my community, right. This was the lane. I don't, you'll never hear me say that everybody should do this, that everybody should run for office. I do think everybody should find a way to get involved, sure. Right. But, you have to find where you can have the strongest impact. And I felt like at this time in my life, this was the right opportunity and this was the right thing. So in doing that, we were successful. Thankfully, the first time out, I did have to leave my good job at the Supreme Court and go out and hang out a shingle. So, it was it is a sacrifice. It is a tremendous sacrifice, and it's stressful, and time taken away, money taken away from your family, right. Because despite the popular belief, there may be a lot of rich politicians that I serve with, but I'm not one of them. Right. And it just is what it is, So it's a hard decision for especially young people to make, and I understand why a lot of people don't want to get involved. But on the money piece, going to the bill that I introduced, I had several priorities going into the first legislative session, whereby I could actually file a bill, because I was elected during the middle of a regular special session last year where I couldn't introduce any legislation. So when I thought about what would be a signature piece of legislation, what was I really going to put my efforts behind, I couldn't think of a more important issue around economic fairness and economic well-being for working people. Right. We're not talking about people who are just staying at home. We're talking about working people. Yeah. And I knew very well and good that the minimum wage debate is one that we have had from the beginning of time, and one that we're probably going to always have. But I became offended, quite honestly, by the fact that Louisiana is one of only 5 states in the country that does not have a minimum wage. We follow the federal guidelines of $7.25. And that is problematic on many fronts, because to suggest that $7.25 is a minimum is not true, because no one can survive off $7.25. Right. I don't care what you do. Now, especially where I live. Now, the different communities where you may live, the cost of living varies. And that really speaks to the heart of why I brought the bill that I brought. Not only does Louisiana not have a minimum wage, we also have what's known as a preemption law. We are, I think, 25, well, now 24 states because Colorado just repealed theirs. But Louisiana was the first state in the nation back in 1997 to introduce what's known as a minimum wage preemption law. And basically what that means is here in Baton Rouge at the state capitol, we have told every local municipality, every governing body, parish, city, that they cannot set their own minimum wage. You just can't do it.
Right.
The state has said you can't do it. And I don't believe that's the way government should work. If a local government wants to do that, they should have the power to do that. So you take the fact that we don't have a minimum wage, we follow the federal guideline, the federal rule of $7.25, which hasn't risen in over 10 years.
Right.
So to me, that's the feds telling the states, look, you decide, right? If we follow in that, and the state the state shouldn't be telling the cities, look, you can't do what's best for your local community. So to me, this wasn't a bill that was purely just about the minimum wage. It was really more about respect for local governments and local economies. Yeah. Going back to my point around the cost of living. Y'all live in Baton Rouge. I live in New Orleans. I live in Central City. I live a few blocks from Superdome, Smoothie King Arena, and it is not cheap to live where I live.
Cheap to live nowhere in New Orleans right now.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, So I grew up in Gentilly Woods, and again, to your point, it's not cheap to live anywhere. When people talk about moving to New Orleans, you really can't do it. You got people if you're looking to move in New Orleans, and you're making a moderate to low income, you cannot. It's not even an option at this point, right?
Yeah. So we was growing up,
right? So I started looking at what had been done over the past couple of years, and every year we see the paper. John Bell, the governor, has pushed for a modest raise in the minimum wage. Right? We talking like $8.50, $9, something that isn't even that significant, but it's a step. And they blocked him every time on that. Now, I would prefer to see a statewide increase. However, if the legislature was not going to agree to a modest increase, then I thought that a good compromise would be to say, all right, how about you just let the locals decide?
Right.
Yeah.
So nowhere in my legislation did I call for a mandatory minimum wage. My bill was about lifting the preemption. It was a repeal law that said, no, you're going to give the power back to the local government for them to decide. And each local parish, each municipality, they would go through their own process to be able to decide, okay, what can our economy absorb? And you know what they could decide at the end? They could decide, we're not raising the minimum wage because our economy can't absorb it. It's going to hurt small businesses. It's just not something that we want to entertain. Right. And they would fully have that option. And I think that's a better way to approach it. In fact, I believe that cities are the best places to explore new policies. Because if you see Lake Charles do something, or if you see Lafayette or Monroe or Baton Rouge or whomever do something, and you can basically look at it as a test case, as a you see what's happening around smoke free and certain parishes being able to introduce policies that say we're going to ban smoking in certain facilities. Then after a few years, you see the effects that it's had. That's money that the state can save and say, well, we know how it's going to impact cities, so now we can introduce the policy at the statewide level. So cities are really laboratories for innovation. That's something that Mitch Landrieu often says. And we need to empower cities to be able to make these decisions. So that was at the core of my push.
Quick question on the cities using them as test cases. Do you think that New Orleans would be a good test case for other cities? Because we're so dependent on tourism. Would you think that it would be comparable to like a Baton Rouge or Lafayette?
In some ways, I wouldn't say across the board. No, I wouldn't, because New Orleans is so unique,
right?
And I do believe it's an anomaly. So I wouldn't say that. All right, if New Orleans were to raise their minimum wage or to set a minimum wage to say $10 an hour,
I think New Orleans would be the last to do it because there's so many of those service-based jobs that they have so many of them service-based where all those waitresses and bartenders and they standard is like $2 an hour or something. So I think they would be the last.
Yeah,
to
well,
do that
it would be
on
unique,
the business front,
right? And we could see, and unfortunately, the debate this year didn't even get to the point of being able to discuss the nuances to be able to say, okay, if you're a business that employs over 200 people, it applies to you. However, if you're a service-based industry, it doesn't apply to you, right? Because we know they function off of a tip wage type of compensation. So I don't think it would necessarily be a good example for other cities, but I think that's even more of a reason why New Orleans shouldn't be held in a chokehold. I compare it to like being in a bad relationship. It's like, all right, if you're not going to do right by me, state, then don't hold on to me. Like, let me go. Like, don't, you know, if you're not going to do right, like, just let me do my own thing. Right. But, you know, New Orleans did come out. Our city council adopted a resolution in full support of this, as did Alexandria. I don't remember the vote in Alexandria, but Shreveport, a unanimous resolution in support. And I think maybe Cattle, I can't recall specifically. Baton Rouge, unfortunately, their resolution was proposed, but it did not pass. Right. But I think that helps the argument even more because it tells my colleagues, it tells everyone that, look, cities are going to do what cities are going to do, right? To your point. See, I had certain colleagues that was like, if New Orleans does this, then tomorrow they're going to raise the minimum wage to $15. I said, that is not true. Right. That is absolutely not true. That is not true. No, I mean, it just wouldn't work that way, you know, because you could harm businesses that way. Right. I've never suggested that there should just be a blanket number, right, in terms of doubling it. But I do think in many cases we got to push for a higher minimum wage. We just simply have to do because we got to look at the broader impacts and the broader costs that we incur as communities, right?
So that seemed a little extreme, but did you receive any criticism that you thought where they may have a point in the midst of y'all discussions about the bill? Like
points that I agreed with? Yeah. When you say that they may have a point, you mean like
valid
points
valid points as opposed that seemed a little extreme.
Yeah. You know? So one the biggest argument that wasn't the $15 wasn't the one thing that I heard the most. The biggest argument that was raised, guys, was certainly small businesses, but how it would they call it patchwork policies. In other words, this is the language that the preemption advocates use, that we need to be consistent in our laws. So if you run a business in multiple parishes, then you basically need to have a consistent minimum wage that you pay your employees. I hear it, but I don't agree with it. And this is why. Each parish, from city to city, parish to parish, you pay different sales taxes.
Cost of living.
The cost of living varies. I mean, it just is what it is. You know, local governments make different decisions on zoning and land use, right? So let's say I'm in real estate and I'm developing property in one parish and I develop property in another parish. I have to deal with a different set of policies from parish to parish. Parishes issue economic development incentives every single day. And that's patchwork. So I think the real piece that they were making, and it really, I think, was just unfortunate. When they talk about small businesses, when they came to the table during committee, I asked them point blank. This was the Small Business Federation. I always get their name wrong, and I apologize. I mean, anyway, but it's an organization that advocates for small businesses, and we all support small businesses. Right. I'm about as small of a business as you can get. All right, so let's just keep that in perspective. My question was, well, how many of your small business members of your organization actually operate businesses in multiple parishes? And they couldn't tell me. Right. Think about that.
Not many.
Yeah. Think about that. Yeah. If you're a real small business, you probably don't have operations from city to city. Yeah. And let's say you in one parish and you paying your employees, you're required to pay your employees $7.25, and in another parish you're required to pay your employees $9.25. People, the cost of living varies.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, let's just keep it real. It's
not even close.
It's not even close.
Like you think about being in the country. You can get food or just say going out, having fun. You go get a plate of food, you get a couple of drinks. You can do that on like $20 somewhere in the country.
Right.
You go do that in New Orleans.
Man, you can't get an Uber for that much.
Cost of living from downtown to Zachary vary.
Yeah, that's
downtown to scenic.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Neighborhood to neighborhood, the cost of living varies. So I just think it is very regressive for us to just have a blanket policy around something that is so nuanced. So again, it was certainly about economic justice and economic fairness, but I'm not the one. Royce Duplessis is not the one to say businesses should set this amount. Local governments are the bodies that should make that determination. So it was economic justice and economic fairness combined with respect for local government. That was the heart of House Bill 422. And it got treated really badly, y'all. I mean,
I think it's from the business side.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure, and because they're pretty strong, the advocacy is up there. But we got a lot of love too. I think we got a huge movement. I want to thank on this. I would love to thank the Unleash Local. That was a campaign that was statewide, and I had no idea that that level of support would come in support of that. But look, man, I could talk about this all night, as you can tell.
Yeah, my thing with that, in the $7.25 to $9, it's not a lot.
It's not.
Anyway,
it's
you're
not.
talking about two. You talk.
It's the business guy.
But we talking about $290 a week versus $360 a week.
But listen.
Depending on the number of employees you have.
Yeah, from a major corporation, a major business, I can agree with you. I think they can absorb that cost, and most likely they're gonna transfer that cost onto to their customers anyway. But when I think about a small business, you're talking about $7.25 to $9. That's 25%.
But he was talking about having over 200 employees. If you have over 200 employees, I think you can afford a bump like that.
And here's the catch: when I was talking about the businesses that they were afraid of being impacted by this from parish, you know who they were really talking about? Your Wendy's, Burger King, McDonald's. That's who it was really about. And I'm saying these are. I mean, yes,
they're doing numbers.
These are often in many cases owned by small business franchisees, which we don't want to hurt them. But I respect those nuances. I do. And here, I guess I'll pose this question to you guys, because again, kind of going back to the question of whether or not it'll hurt or not. If you were to raise $7.25 to say $9 an hour, this is more of a philosophical question that we don't really get to answer during the debate. The cost that you pay, right, to have a quote unquote living wage, wouldn't we then see? We wouldn't reap that benefit down the road because now we're probably going to have better employees, right? They're going to maybe be able to quit that second or third job, right? So I probably have to worry about less about them stealing out of my register or, being able to work with their kids, do homework in the evening. I'm just thinking about the long-term benefits that where businesses can benefit from paying more.
I agree with that, but I don't think that businesses... I feel like businesses, for one, like in the fast food industry, like we see it with McDonald's, they're automating everything.
But that's going to happen no matter what.
You're right. I feel like it's going to happen no matter what, but I feel like a business would be even more aggressive in pursuing those type of opportunities.
In terms of cutting costs, saving,
to cut costs. And then I think about stuff like, all right, well, they say, all right, we got these people on, they full-time, we're going to knock them down to part-time. So we can cut the cost of like...
I wonder people making minimum wage working 40 hours a week, though.
No, I wonder how much you're really... how much you really saving trying to automate everything versus you still got to pay a robotic engineer, you still got to pay people to come in and maintain
it's cheaper.
But those are one-time expenses.
Yeah, and then
somebody's got to maintain those robots.
The maintaining cost is cheaper than paying wages, and it's also cheaper than paying benefits because a lot of these people are cutting out. They're not worried about cutting money. They're more worried about cutting benefits when they go to that type of system.
I just think this is an intriguing discussion.
Yeah, definitely.
We recently had Ted here.
Oh, yeah.
And we talked about the heartbeat bill.
Oh, man. That was some powerful stuff.
And
that was heavy.
One of the things that came out in that conversation was that he highlighted was it's amazing how, when it comes to telling a woman what to do with her body, like everybody's on board for that, but everybody's so against making businesses do anything.
That's right. Yeah, that's the truth. We don't want government telling. And when you think about it, right? Think about how sensitive we are as, I'll just say, a conservative state.
Right. How
sensitive we are to protecting businesses, but when we don't seem to be as sensitive around just people who are at risk of being put out of their apartment because they can't pay rent. We're talking about working people.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. I'm just talking about how sensitive we are, right? I mean, business gets a pass every time. And I want business to win because business is what drives this capitalist economy. I want business to win. But how can business win when we have employees that can't make it. They can't make it. Right. So we're paying to retrain employees. You know, we're paying just to kind of see these first, second, third quarter returns, and we're not looking down the road. I just feel like it's just short-sighted.
But then you know, the less we pay them, the more benefits we're gonna have to provide them to assist them in living.
Exactly. That's another cost. That's what I'm saying. But that part we never seem to talk about, because we pay the cost. There's no getting around it. Right. So we can either pay people better wages, or we gonna pay in other ways.
Right. Yeah.
I told you it's about keeping a poverty line. You got to keep so many people.
Well, look, let me say. I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to go there. I was speaking to an organization the other day, the Power Coalition, and some other folks had put together a little round table. And as a 36-year-old man, as someone who's kind of been around all of this stuff, it never dawned on me that was a possibility. And it's I have concluded through this process that is very likely the reality, what he just said. Yeah. Like the attitude is that there always has to be a group of people that cannot be doing as well as the rest of us. Right. And that really pains me to say it, but I've concluded. Mm-hmm.
Somebody got to do the lower job. And I really feel like that as well as the heartbeat bill, like, and not wanting minimum wages to rise, you always got to have somebody to take the lower end of
because if you're serious about reducing what we have to pay out in benefits, then you have to provide people with a path toward earning enough to where they don't need.
You don't need people self-sufficient. You need people to be on welfare. You need to have these programs to keep the poverty levels, and you got to have that underclass, and that.
But it's so idiotic though, because in other states, man, who actually do kind of implement these minimum wage laws or increase the minimum wage, they still have poverty. It's like it's not like poverty just disappears all of a sudden.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you're still gonna have it. I feel like they're just doing more harm because the majority of the state is poor. It ain't like it's like a class of people, like 20%, 25%. It's a whole lot of people that's just stuck in poverty.
Well, I just think it's the people, like y'all said, I think it's the people on top that's trying to keep themselves on top, because like, let's say, you know, in that extreme case, let's say you do raise minimum wage $15. The value of the dollars will go down. Well, and now those people have to work harder to maintain their lifestyle.
This is what I'll say, because I'm more so with this issue. I do believe people deserve a living wage, but I'll be honest, I'm more so in the middle. Because, like, if I own a small business or whatever, and I didn't have a ton of employees, and you told me I have to raise, or if a city told me, hey, you need to raise your minimum wage for your employees by 25%. 25% could be my whole profit. I could eat up my entire profit. So for some small business owners, I truly do understand it. Their plight from that standpoint. But at the same time, like from a moral compass standpoint, I'm like, you know, I don't want people out here just...
I don't think you would pay nobody no $7.25 an hour, because you wouldn't work for yourself. You would not work for yourself.
But here's the thing. Any time you want to have any kind of progress, somebody has to suffer.
Right.
You know, just like, you know, Amazon beating people off the block, stores are leaving the mall. You know, in 5 to 10 years, Mall, Louisiana going to be a victim. You know, but now we're talking about small businesses versus real people. We're talking about a fake person.
Right.
Some
paper.
Small businesses, they have people behind them. So it's not like it's not people.
Yeah.
So I'm saying I understand some of their play or some of their reasons as to why they might not want to do it. Do I think $7.25 is a livable wage? No, I don't. You know, I'm for, you know, modest increases over time to get the wage up, because I think to me $10 should be like where it's at. Like that's the baseline. You know, but honestly, if I'm paying somebody $10 like at Popeyes, I better get good service though.
Well, I think that's the thing.
Well, you ain't getting good service at Popeyes.
Right. No, but
if
I'm paying $10,
no matter what, it's just not gonna happen.
Right.
Okay,
this ain't Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
But if you gotta work,
so are they paying their employees more at Chick-fil-A?
No,
because you're getting better service.
I think Chick-fil-A does pay their employees.
They got to.
You have to, because you're getting much better service.
Right. I think you will get better service if you
get packed all day.
And here's the other piece too, though. Again, I could talk about this all night, because I don't pretend to have it all figured out. But I do think that I like to raise the questions and have the discussion, and that was really a big part of bringing the legislation as well. Does everyone have a right? Right? Do you just have a right to say I get to run a business and I'm not a good business person? In other words, if I can't afford to raise my minimum wage 25% to a livable wage, then is that a right or is it a privilege to be able to own and operate a small business?
That's a very thought-provoking question, brother.
And that'll probably piss a lot of people off too. That question. Before we take that, and I'm just putting it out there, not for us to answer.
Before we address that question, let's take a quick break.
Yeah. And
we'll be back with more right after this.
You know your credit score bad. I'm not a that's solid quality time. Right. Why does Steve Harvey still writing books when it's like, if I want you, I ain't taking you to Waffle House at 2 a.m. Bullshit. I care about you. We going to Waffle House.
All right, everybody, we are back. And man, we're going to pick back up on that very last question that you asked, brother. Is it a right or a privilege to own a small business? So, for example, if you own a small business and you run it and you cannot afford to pay a livable wage, should you be in business?
You out of there.
I think it's a conversation we need to have, because think about it like this. When you're talking about working people every day, and small business owners are working people. Right. They trying to pay their bills.
Yeah.
They trying to make it, right? So there's lives behind those LLC and corporation papers, right?
Absolutely.
You know, and those. So there are people behind it. But when we're talking about workers, and the workers not being able to quote unquote make it, the conversation just seems to be a little different. It's like the workers, well, they've done something wrong because you can't make it. You don't work enough, or you ain't good enough, right? If you were a better employee, you would do better. Right. Well, wait a second, time out. Just seems to be a different conversation around how much compassion we have for working people as opposed to quote unquote business owners, despite whether or not they're good in terms of managing how they deal with expenses and revenue, right? So again, it just seems to be a different conversation that we have. We have a greater level of tolerance for business owners, regardless of what kind of business owner you are. You could be you probably can't make this payroll, this modest increase in payment, maybe because you're not being innovative enough. Right? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just saying it's a conversation that we don't seem to really have. So
even the Secretary of State innovative. you know when we go down there and file businesses.
Go biz.
Yeah, you know they charge you $50 more to expedite your service and give you your papers that same day. When they gonna press the same button and it takes a little bit longer, you mean to tell me you gave the secretary who did that $50 extra for that 2 minutes of work? No, you didn't. You just charge them more for convenience. So I feel what you're saying is it's about being innovative in your product, and
it goes back to that theory of importance, because clearly they're assigning more value to that person.
Absolutely.
Job creators.
Yeah, we look at these job creators as though it's like a birthright. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have a birthright to be in business for yourself. And I'm saying, well, okay, I want all people. I believe in it. It's something that I strongly believe in. But at the same time, it shouldn't be two different conversations.
Right. Man, look, I'm in sales. So, I'm supposed to sell. And if I'm not doing well with hitting my metrics or with doing this, doing that,
by George, they're going to get somebody that will.
What they gonna tell me, they gonna have this conversation with me. They gonna say, hey, look, you might not be a bad employee. You might not be able to do something, but maybe this particular role is not a good fit for you. Mm-hmm. That's the conversation they gonna have. So if a business owner can't afford to pay their people, and it's just tough, I don't mean like the first sign of trouble, but I mean like you just consistently can't do this, then maybe the role of business owner just isn't a good fit for you. Maybe you
at this time.
It sounds to me like y'all about to get into that society that just designate, all right, worker ain't.
Well, the thing is, it's like only the strong will survive.
Right,
that's the mentality.
It's kind of like, all right, we all know that you like one of the best photographers in the world right now.
I had some struggles in the beginning too.
But what I'm saying is, I'm probably the worst person in the room at taking pictures. So if I go be a photographer,
that's facts.
If I go,
that's facts.
Hey man, look, wait a minute,
boy,
wait.
Right, you put it in perspective.
Wait.
Put it in perspective.
Wait. Y'all co-sign that too hard.
No, because you are.
Whatever, man. Let me make my point. But my point is, if I go to business for myself as a photographer, odds are I'm probably not gonna get that much business or get any repeat business because I'm just not good at it.
We would never let you do that though.
But what I'm saying is, but my point is,
we as your friends would never let you do that.
We get where you
going. But you feel my
brother.
point. Like if you're just not good at what you do, maybe you shouldn't be in that field. And it's not like assigning roles or anything.
Play devil's advocate. One thing I will say, I'm not gonna make the assumption that they're just a bad business owner. I think
that's fair.
I think some people they genuinely won't be able to afford that pay increase, and they'll just have to go out of business. It's harsh, but that's just the reality of it. But I won't say that all of them would just be bad.
You got to reinvent yourself though. Like times change, people got to change.
But some businesses,
to what he's saying, reinventing yourself, and where I shot myself in the foot is trying to do everything myself, and now I'm getting back into the, pay the people to do the things that they need to do to make yourself more efficient.
That's not applicable to all businesses. So in some cases, there's nothing that they really can do. Like if it's an older person.
But why do businesses, like when it comes to business versus business, they it's different. It's a different conversation. Mm-hmm. When I grew up, we had K&B toy store. Mm-hmm. Toys R Us came in, we'll holler, beat them off the block.
Right.
Quick.
Amazon came in,
right?
Bye Toys R Us.
And I agree with that. I say that's the reality of it.
But when it comes to business, versus individual,
right?
Right. Hey, this is what y'all getting. If this don't work for you, you can go somewhere else.
Because the business has the power to do that.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation, and again, I'm not pretending to really have it figured out. I just find that there's a lot more sensitivity. There's a lot more sensitivity around protecting the interests of business and their survival, as opposed to those who are showing up every day and working at a wage in which it's not livable. So I don't want to make it harder for business. Right. I don't, but I do want to make it a little easier for workers. That's it. That's where I'm at with it.
That's a good stopping point.
Yeah.
Equitable. So being that you just went through, I think I only have a couple days left in the session.
Yep, two more days, or 3 more days. Sorry, yeah, we wrap up Thursday, so we got Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
We really would just like to get an idea of just where you think we are as a state in Louisiana currently right now. I mean, we know that we rank. We rank at the very bottom in a lot of the major categories like healthcare, like education, infrastructure. Like, just where do you think we are as far as the current state of Louisiana?
Sure. Well, I think the statistics really speak for themselves. Let me just start by saying I'm proud to be from Louisiana. I wouldn't want to be from anywhere else. And
I'm with you there because I couldn't eat nobody else bland food.
There you go. There you go. We are like no other place in the world, for better or for worse. We have our challenges. We have great challenges, from education to criminal justice to infrastructure, healthcare. The issues run deep. I don't think that. I know that we are better than what we have been producing. I think that though there's just has been a serious lack of ability on all sides to really see the different perspectives. What I mean by that is, being someone who's from New Orleans, my perspective of the world and of the state is much different than somebody who's from, say, Northeast or Northwest Louisiana or Southwest Louisiana. So when I got to the legislature, being still relatively new, I tried to come in, and I still try to exercise this every day, is exercising empathy. And trying to understand where my colleagues are coming from, where my fellow Louisianians are coming from, what motivates them, what drives them, what their passions are, what they care about, as we try to find common ground, because that's really the only way we're going to be able to move this state forward. Because I believe every person that shows up in that building every day as a legislator, or even if you're not in the legislature, if you're just going to work every day doing what you do, trying to take care of your family, at the end of the day, you want good for yourself and for your family, and for your community. So the question is, how do we get there? The South, just in general, we don't tend to rank at the top for much. We tend to be last in terms of wanting to. We're not really who you think of when you think of like progressive, right? So I identify myself as a progressive, someone who wants to move in a direction that's equitable, that's fair. It's not about handouts, but it's about a rising tide. All boats, will rise, and that's my belief. That's my philosophy, because I want to see everybody do well. I haven't subscribed to the idea that in order for some to do well, others can't do well, and vice versa. I will never subscribe to that idea. But as a state, we have become too invested in the status quo, and at some point we have to have a reckoning, and we have to do some soul searching to say, look, are we going to just continue to just accept this? Are we going to just continue to accept being last? I mean, I know Louisiana is shaped like an L, but I mean, come on now. Come on now. I mean, we don't have to take it literally. I know it's shaped like an L, but we don't have to we don't have to take, I believe we are a great state. Right. I really believe that. And I still have a lot of hope. I really do. I truly do have a lot of hope. And it just takes... you'd be surprised how one person or one issue could just trigger so much change. And that's one of the things that inspires me. I'll never forget, it may have been my second week on the job, I was assigned to Criminal Justice Committee. And in the committee, that's when the unanimous jury bill came up. It made it through the Senate, got before the committee. I don't know that they had all the votes to get it passed. You had a DA who made a comment in committee. DA was from Calcasieu, I believe. And speaking of Ted James, man, he jumped on it, man. He just went to work in terms of addressing the outrageous comment that this DA made. And he did it in a fashion where I don't care how you feel about the issue, nobody was going to vote against this at that point, based upon just the things that were said in committee. And I believe that moment created like this, it was like lightning was caught in a bottle. And it created like this snowball effect where it ended up passing the legislature. So when you see things like that happen, you say, wow, just that one moment can alter the course of history. So I hold on to experiences like that and hoping that we can make some real systemic change in our education system, because I think that's really where it starts. Education and economics. So it's frustrating to be at the bottom, but we got to stay encouraged.
Yeah, education definitely is key. I feel like we're losing most of our most educated people. They just go to Texas or they go to some other state. They don't necessarily stay home.
Right. And you're talking to my little one's mother out there, because teacher pays much better in Dallas.
Yeah.
She's riding out.
They just got that pay raise too.
Yeah, well, thankfully we did just give them a modest pay raise, long overdue.
Yeah.
Teachers will see $1,000, and there's $39 million going towards schools. So that's the first increase in the MFP, which is minimum foundation. Minimum foundation program, and it's long overdue. It's a step in the right direction, but we still have to do so much more. Again, why aren't we protecting teachers the way that we're protecting business and industry? Right? That's key. If we invest in our education system, companies gonna be beating down the door to come to Louisiana because we have an employable workforce.
Yeah.
See, I just feel like it's about classism again. I just feel like the people who can afford to send their kids to private school, the people that want to keep the education down because they have the resources to give their kids a good education.
And we have that mentality that if I don't got a good education, I can hit the plant still.
Well, I'll say this. While I do agree that classism plays a part, I also think that people vote against their own interests.
Every day.
Things that can truly benefit them in this state, and I would say throughout the South, they vote against their own interests.
So I'll agree with you there with education and education of the issues. And we have a habit of not getting out the vote, and especially, like, we'll go vote for the rock stars like Obama, but you'll sit at home for the local stuff. When the local stuff is the stuff that's going to impact you directly, because these are going to be the people that's going to later become the Obamas and everything. Like, you have to start locally. Because that affects your job locally. That affects your housing market locally. That affects your pay locally.
Oh yeah, your local taxes and stuff too.
And people just don't care to go out and vote locally. That affects you have better judges in place that are not systematically lock up all black men. You might can put a judge in place that care about keeping somebody out of jail for their first offense, or habitually, sending first-time offenders to jail, like giving harsh sentences because you don't care to go vote for the judge, or you don't care to go put a DA in place that cares about your people.
Right. You just voting based off name recognition,
or something as basic and as important as jury service. We get frustrated when we look at our criminal justice system and we get angry and upset. But when we get called to jury duty,
we get out and do it.
We coming up with every excuse under the sun.
Right. Oh no!
But I'm gonna tell there is probably no more of a powerful way that you can have a direct impact on our criminal justice system than serving on the jury.
You know our homeboy Howard. Howard is adamant about that. We in a group message.
Yeah.
He will call us trash if we try to skip out. He's adamant about it. He's like, man, y'all need to go. If y'all get a jury, if y'all skip out, y'all not my boy. Like, y'all trash. I will not deal with you.
I love that dude, man.
Man, y'all trash, man.
I love that.
Man, y'all trash, man.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's I like something that you said, man. Empathy. That's
it's lacking in our discourse. It's lacking in it really is a foundational principle that I think is missing in much of our just everything that we do.
Yeah.
We function in this tribal mentality, and I'm guilty of it. I'm not saying that I haven't been a part of contributing to the problem, but I think we just got to get out of our echo chambers, try to understand where people are coming from. Because you have to seek to understand in order to be understood. Right. And I just believe that we need more empathy in our policy making, and I think then we'll start to see some advancement.
Right.
Man, we've been having all this heavy conversation, man.
Serious conversation.
I'm sorry.
Since we got you here, brother, I gotta ask you something a little more lighthearted. We want to know your top 5.
We're gonna just jump straight into it. I love it. I love the transition.
All time.
Top
5 NBA all time.
Top 5 NBA all time.
Greatest.
Man.
Number 5.
Well, look, in no particular order.
Okay.
I gotta start with LeBron. He'd probably be my top 3. All just like LeBron. I see I must have a Kobe man over here.
No, he's definitely not a Kobe man.
Kobe? You're MJ?
I respect Kobe more than I respect LeBron.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, let's go through it. I'm gonna start with LeBron. And look, like I said, I have 3 brothers. We debate every day. We're on our own little group message, and I'm like this big LeBron defender, bro. It's like, awesome.
Why?
Like, why not? You know what I'm saying? But anyhow. I'm going to go with LeBron, Allen Iverson,
okay,
Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe was just a killer.
It's a dog.
Killer.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I would probably have to. I'll make a place for MJ in there somewhere.
Wait a minute.
Y'all know I'm joking. Right now.
Yeah,
Of course, Mike is in my top 5.
You named too many people not
and
my
fifth. I said no particular order, so I was being sarcastic about MJ.
Okay.
I'd throw Steph Curry in there. Steph Curry's in my top 5. So you got LeBron, Allen Iverson, Kobe, MJ, and Curry.
Who's number 1?
No particular order. Well, number 1, LeBron. LeBron.
I'm about to say,
LeBron. LeBron's number 1.
Those types that do no particular order, they always want to put LeBron number 1.
But I can say that. I can say after everybody else, I can't say, but I can say with certainty, LeBron number 1.
I'm not gonna hold. We've had
pure statistics.
We've had a good episode other than this. Because people who usually feel that Kobe is a killer, you can't put LeBron at number 1.
Check this
Because
out.
I'm objective with this, bro.
Check this out, though. I
didn't mean to frustrate you.
You know it's killing.
Dying I'll make a place for MJ is what killing him.
I was joking. I was joking with that. Of course, MJ goes without saying.
He named 2 point guards, and neither one of them was Magic.
Man, I wouldn't even think about Magic. I was just thinking about how Mike not number 1.
No. MJ for sure. MJ goes without saying. But I guess I've been in so many debates about LeBron where I jumped to him first. That's probably what that was. And he's still currently today, the best.
LeBron fell out my top 5 today.
So you're going off of stats?
I'm going off stats. I'm going off stats for sure, but I'm also going off his impact on the game. Period.
His impact for leaving, which is another discussion today, that he's possibly leaving the Lakers again. He's quits on so many teams.
Well, I haven't read no sports news. I haven't read no sports news today, so I can't comment. I've been caught up in
ESPN, it's a big thing.
Oh, really? I haven't read literally no sports news.
He's literally threatening that if they don't get the free agency right, he's gone.
Wow.
Well, he can't
go.
leave.
He signed a 4-year contract.
Yeah, so I mean,
he ain't going nowhere.
He can retire.
He can make hell for him. He can want to be traded.
He can retire.
There's many ways LeBron can affect where he wants to go.
But why wouldn't you trade LeBron at this point?
I trade him for Anthony Davis.
The Pelicans not trading for LeBron.
Hey,
why wouldn't he?
Well, LeBron ain't coming to the wall.
I feel like this. The NBA would veto that.
Yeah, LeBron ain't coming to the wall. They'll shut that down just like they did with Chris Paul in LA.
Because the NBA will lose. LeBron coming to New Orleans, that ain't good for the NBA.
So
That's not good for New Orleans.
So we got one more for you, brother.
That's it? Just one more?
Before we let you out of here, we got to ask you, top 5 MCs.
Oh, top 5 MCs. Top 5 MCs. Nas is my number 1. Nas is top for me.
I respect that.
This is always a tough one. Top 5 MCs is always tough, but I'm gonna give it my best shot.
No particular order.
I can give you my number 1. I can give you my number 1.
Yeah.
Pac.
Okay.
All right.
Notorious.
Okay.
Wayne. I gotta get Wayne in there. Wayne is in my top 5.
Which Wayne though?
From the original Hot Boys all the way to
or whatever that is.
I mean
every little bit.
I love Nas,
all the way to Carter 5. All the way to Carter 5. Which honestly I believe, and I debate this with my homeboys all the time.
Don't you say it.
Bro, I really believe Carter 5 is probably one of his best projects. I really do believe that. That's a body of work. That is a body of work. The Carter 5 is a body of work, and I don't feel like it got all of its just due in terms of range and depth. We have never heard that level of depth from Lil Wayne before.
I feel like he just put it out to get rid of his album obligations.
Maybe we heard a different album. Maybe we heard a different album. But this guy truly did something he had never done before on Carter 5.
I think it's much better than what he had been putting out recently.
Yeah, I mean, but look, everybody has they laws. I mean, but we talking about a guy who started rapping when he was 14 and was able to stay in the. I mean, 20 plus years. When do you see that?
Well, wait a minute, you owe us one.
Yeah. Fifth, again, it's hard. I'm probably throw Snoop in there.
He mad at you because Jay ain't in there.
But look, but Hov, if we talking about just like impact on the culture, Hov for sure. But just in terms of my artists who I like in terms of music, I told you it's hard. Nas, Pac, Notorious, and Wayne, and I probably have to throw Snoop in as my fifth.
We got to mention the first rap billionaire. Got to throw that in there. Incredible. Yeah, like I said, impact on the game. Hov. He wears that crown.
But
no question. He's the king of rap.
You'd say LeBron's impact on the game, put him in the top 5.
His stats. Dog, that number, just put his numbers up against anybody. It's unquestionable.
Look at the era he's playing in.
He plays.
Wait a second.
He played in the East.
Wait a second. Wait a second. What difference does it make?
A major difference.
All right. He played in the East.
There's no handshake.
Jordan played in the East.
Jordan played in a good East.
He didn't play against the Pistons.
The East was the West. The East was the West.
The East,
I get y'all.
All I'm saying is Michael Jordan averaged 37.5 and won Defensive Player of the Year.
That's why I don't compare MJ and LeBron because they played in two different eras.
And they're two different types of players.
It was two different eras.
LeBron James is a bigger, faster, stronger, better Scottie Pippen.
Man, LeBron James
minus the defense.
LeBron James is a specimen that we will never see again probably in our lifetime. I'm excited to see what Zion's going to do, but he is not going to be LeBron James.
Zion is Blake Griffin.
Yeah.
To me, he's
right.
Blake Griffin.
He's going to sell tickets. I hope he can sell some in New Orleans because I didn't mention this, but I have the honor and privilege of representing a district that includes all of downtown New Orleans, so the Smoothie King Center and the New Orleans the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, all that's in my district. So that's good for New Orleans if we can sell tickets and get bodies in the seats. But look, when we talking about LeBron James, man, we talking about a transformational player who has not just met the expectations, he has exceeded the expectations from the time he was 12 years old. The pressure that was on this kid. Just a kid from Akron. Mm-hmm. Again, I know. It sounds like I'm riding, I'm selling for LeBron, but look,
he's met him up until now. He's not meeting expectations as a Laker.
Here's how I feel.
My lifelong,
he hasn't been perfect. Some of this stuff has been too Hollywood for me. Like some of these moves, like the whole AD move, I don't like that. I didn't like the position that he put AD in and what it did to the Pelicans organization and the way that they handled that. I don't like some of these off the court things that are happening. But in terms of purely on the court, man, this guy is incredible.
I gave you a hard time. I will put LeBron in my top 5. No, he may be like 5.
You'll save a spot for him.
But my biggest issue with LeBron, it seems like any team he goes to, players regress by playing with him.
So how y'all feel about like a KD type player?
I mean,
I respected him until he went to Golden State.
Okay, we on the same page.
We have this debate all the time.
And KD is phenomenal. He's a phenomenal player.
KD might be a top 5 all-time talent.
Top 5 talent for you.
But his resume, as far as winning championships in Golden State, will always have an asterisk.
I don't see them championships. Like,
ain't that a trip?
They trip.
And you're not
feeling it.
Dirk Nowitzki's championship in Dallas mean way more than what Kevin Durant did in Golden State.
I'm not feeling it.
Why not?
Because he has added value to Golden State when they
how long KD been out?
How you add value to a 73-win team, dog?
Yeah. Is that even possible?
You was going to the final. It wasn't like they missed the playoffs. They went to Game 7.
Y'all need to watch.
Now, he a bad boy.
I think it was what's Shannon Sharp and whatchamacallit show?
Undisputed.
Or it may have been Undisputed or the show after that, and it showed that teams that have
Undisputed, that guy skip on it, man. Shut up.
But no, it was either the one before or one after, and it showed that teams that have remained, they just was okay with the team they had when they won a championship. They did not go on to repeat because they did not put new pieces around because they were just comfortable. They did the same thing with Boston.
The GOAT did it twice.
No, they did. No,
the GOAT did it twice.
The Lakers did it.
They added pieces each year.
What pieces?
They added go back. They will go back and then when the Celtics did it,
them 96 Bulls didn't have nothing.
Stop it here. We're gonna fact check him and then we're gonna correct him on the next episode.
When the Celtics did it with Durant, when they had their big team.
Bro, Golden State
they went another 8 years before they changed their team.
Golden State won 3 straight championships without this dude with the same team. The Bulls did it. The Lakers did it.
Yeah, the Bulls did it twice.
The Lakers did it in the 80s. Like the Celtics was doing it. Like teams do it with the same core. You might not do it for 10 years.
I'm not with that one.
I'm not with y'all.
Okay.
So who y'all saying that because LeBron started this change the team.
Well, nobody defending LeBron going to Miami. Kevin Durant was worse. But also look at what you had to give up to get Kevin Durant. Yeah, Kevin Durant is a big piece of what they do now. But look how much shorter that bench is. Look how look how their depth is hurting them right now because of injuries. When before Kevin Durant got there, they were running like 10, 11 deep.
Yeah, it was insane.
It was
insane.
They still split in Toronto.
Who y'all? So y'all, I see Golden State taking it.
I don't see that. Y'all talking about that was a bad loss. Them losing by 9 in Toronto in the first game was not a bad loss. Well, they lost by 9 on the road.
Well, I didn't think
that's a great loss.
I didn't think that was a bad loss either because
with injuries galore.
Well, regardless of how bad you lost, you went on the road and got a split. That's all you really want anyway.
Ain't nobody talking about that. He talking about it's bad that they got a split. They stole a game from Toronto in Toronto. Because that's not a bad thing.
Well, now you got home court advantage.
I'm not saying it was bad for Golden State. That's not what I was saying. What I was saying was
you did say that you said the first game was a bad loss, a 9-game point. You said it like that was a blowout in Toronto.
When I said that,
yeah,
you said it.
I tell you what, I got one final
the point
question.
that I was just making right then in this moment was that without KD and the injuries and all of that, they still split in Toronto. I was actually saying it was a good thing for Golden State.
I got one last question for Royce, man, and don't kill me, brothers. But look, so
I already know where he's going.
You already know where I'm going. So you just mentioned, the New Orleans district, the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, right? I'm watching that black and red team I hate so much. They open they play in Fulton County Stadium. They open a stadium in '92, Georgia Dome. Then they open another stadium. Right. We still rolling with the same stadium since '75.
Yeah.
We doing renovations. What you feel about the renovation plan, and how long does that keep the Saints in town?
Yeah, well, I think if we don't do the renovation plan, the Saints probably won't stay. But it's always tough. They're talking about a $450 million renovation of the Superdome.
That's a new stadium somewhere else.
Yeah, but the reality is when you look at New Orleans and geographically how we're made up, where the Superdome is in the city is part of much of its value. So the idea of having a stadium like that or an arena like that somewhere else is just it makes more sense, I believe, to just keep it where it's at, because that's why a big part of the reason why New Orleans can remain so competitive.
Agreed.
So you see how, the game now is new stadium, new arena. You contend now for Super Bowls. We got one coming in 2024 already. This will put us in line to remain competitive. So, but the challenge, though, and I just in speaking honestly about it, the challenge is when you talk about a $450 million investment, which it's my understanding that at this stage the Saints are supposed to be putting up a third of that. The other 2/3 are going to be bonded out, which will then be basically put onto the people of the state. How much real job creation comes from that? Long term betterment for the state.
Right.
And we're not talking about just short term contracts that are going out to construction companies.
Right.
And we get the entertainment value. We get to sell ourselves as a great city with a new stadium, new renovated stadium. But going back to those equitable issues around lifting people up out of poverty,
right.
I don't know that it's going to be a connection or correlation there.
Right.
So if we're going to have a team, if we're going to have a stadium, you do have to make the improvements. You do have to make the investment to keep it. So we have to figure out a way as a city and as a state to parlay that into new industry. We have to be able to say, okay, now that we have this team, whether we're winning or whether we're losing, it's better when we win it. We have this team. How do we parlay that into create new industries around, some of these STEM careers or IT or whatever it is, just to kind of break away from this tourism, solely tourism-based economy, because that's not going to bring us to the next plateau, and it's just not. Yeah. So I just had to make that point that while I do support the idea of keeping the Saints around and continuing to invest in that, I feel like that's a machine that continues to kind of feed itself, and we have to figure out a way to use that to tap into new industry so other left out populations can benefit from it.
Definitely agree.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I said knock it down, let them play in Tiger Stadium.
That's where you at with it?
Put it right back.
Just knock the whole thing down?
I'm with it too.
Knock the whole thing down, let them play Tiger Stadium 2 years, put it right back where it was.
Hey, look, I'm not an architect or a construction guy. I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to reconfigure this thing in the same spot to make it be compatible with what we see in Dallas and what we see in Atlanta and other places. I don't know. I hope that if we're going to spend almost $500 million that we can get there, but I would hate to see us spend that kind of money and then,
the Saints
how long are we locked into it being Mercedes Superdome? Because I've been done with them since they let Atlanta have it.
What's up with that, man? How you do that, man? The Mercedes
give our biggest rival a Mercedes tag.
Bro, I watch all kind of sports. I've never seen one person have the same label on the stadium in the same league.
And then two rivals?
And then two rivals at that?
Audi, BMW, what's up?
It's
right.
Somebody step up, huh? I'm with that.
It's money, man.
Tesla, what's good?
Tesla Superdome.
Man, put that Chevrolet logo on there, man.
I'm
we
with
a
it, baby.
blue collar state,
I'm
man.
with it. It's such a trip because I remember when they proposed the name change. We don't even. Louisiana Superdome sounds so foreign now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but when it first came up, like Mercedes-Benz, like that's crazy.
Right.
But now it's
like
it's kind of fly. Now.
Yeah,
it's kind of fly. But
Yeah.
now Atlanta got one, and I ain't feeling that.
Right.
Nah, I've been off it since then. Like,
That stadium nice though. I ain't
That's-
gonna
that's-
lie.
I haven't been
yeah,
there.
that stadium nice. I was
That
hating
stadium
on it,
is
but I'm
nice.
just like, how you just give,
Yeah, we should have some exclusivity in this.
Right.
All right, y'all. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with our black prominent figure. You know we're going to do this all year around, not just during Black History Month. And we're going to give it to you right after this.
You know your credit score bad. I'm not gonna you on the Starbucks page. That's solid quality stuff. Right. Why is Steve Harvey still writing books when it's all Wait a minute. Like, if I want you, I ain't saying you to Waffle House at 2 a.m. Cause you bullshit. Hey, look, I care about you. We going to Waffle House.
All right, everybody. We are back with this black prominent figure. Who do you guys have for us?
Well, tonight, first of all, again, thank y'all guys just for having me on, man. I really appreciate this. This is inspiring and encouraging. I'm going to have to go with the late, great Ernest and Nathan Dutch Morial. He's known as having been the first black mayor of New Orleans, but he was so many other firsts. First black to graduate LSU's law school, and first black at the Eastern District U.S. Attorney's Office. He was just a trailblazer, and serving in the state legislature now in 2019. He was also the first black state legislator in the state, and serving in the state legislature now in 2019. You know, I think about the time when there was really just a caucus of one. We got a black caucus, and several members from across the state. And he was up there by himself, trying to do some of the same stuff that I'm trying to do in 2019.
Yeah.
He was doing it.
Solo.
So when folks ask, man, how do you not get discouraged? I think about Dutch Morial.
Right.
I think about what he went through.
Right.
Man, that's real.
Yeah.
That's real, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate
dropping
y'all,
that,
man.
That dime on
Yeah,
us, man.
yeah.
That's some good
Appreciate
knowledge.
y'all.
Look,
Absolutely.
before we go, why don't you tell people how they can find you?
Well, I'm pretty easy to find. You can catch me posted up on the. Nah. Seriously though, I'm pretty active on social media. So I'm trying to remember all of my. I have a personal Instagram which is Royce_ESQ, but I also have my I guess you would say professional/legislator Instagram, which is Royce_Duplessis. Twitter is at Royce Duplessis. And Facebook, same thing. You can find me on there. But if you want to call me, most people seem like they don't want to call these days. They just want to send emails. But my office number is 504-568-2740. Email address rduplessis@legis.la.gov. And I'm any of those ways you can reach out to me. More than happy to hear your thoughts, hear your ideas. I want to hear your complaints. I want to hear your frustrations. I want to hear what you're passionate about and what I could be doing better and what we could be doing better.
We definitely appreciate you, brother, and your efforts.
I appreciate y'all.
Thanks for coming.
Man, thank you.
And get us a new stadium.
I know where he at. You want to stay there.
And be sure to come back, man.
I will, man.
GP football fixes all.
We got,
right.
like we told Ted, we got some elections coming this fall that's going to be pretty important, especially locally. We love to have you come and give your input around that time.
Yep.
So we can get the
I'd
word
love
out
to.
to people.
Let me say this, guys. Anything y'all need me for, I'm there. If we can work it out on the schedule tip, I'm there. Like I told GP, I appreciate the invitation. We were able to put it together. So I mean that. Count on me as someone that can be a resource. I mean that. I want to be a friend to y'all movement and what y'all doing. I respect it and I admire it and I want to support in any way I can.
And look, man, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
But also, let us be a resource to you too.
Thank
so
you.
if you need us,
Yeah.
need us to support your event, you need us to do
Appreciate
anything.
that. Definitely.
We got to get these
Let us know.
voter drives popping.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
All
Reserve
right.
your vote.
All right,
Y'all heard it.
There it is. All right, I'm going to go try to find me some food somewhere.
All right, everybody, we are out.
You know your credit score bad. I'm not gonna you on the Starbucks page. That's solid quality stuff. Why is Steve Harvey still writing books when it's all want to, we going to Waffle House.